February 16th, he came out with his budget. And unfortunately for many of us, our expectations were shattered. Because when we heard him say shared sacrifice, we made an assumption that he was aware of the sacrifice that had already taken place. The fact that people out there, normal, everyday people, were hurting. So we assumed that that vision of shared sacrifice took into account those very things. We took the governor at his word that the very last thing he would do was to foist more taxes on Connecticut. Instead of cutting spending, he increased spending. Over 2 years, he increased spending by over $1 billion. And he proposed to balance that budget, the largest tax increase in the history of the state of Connecticut, $1.8 billion, never before done. And we expected a sit-down, because we took the governor at his word that there were no Republican ideas or Democratic ideas, only good ideas. So we figured that between $1.8 billion in taxes that he had proposed and zero tax increase that we had proposed, understanding that we were the minority party, there had to be a middle ground. There had to be a middle ground. Unfortunately, that never happened. Our ideas were dismissed in whole. We were not called to negotiate. We were not asked our opinion, and the budget was passed. There was one big problem, though. It was an incomplete budget. We had a $2 billion hole. They said not to worry, because we are doing very well with our negotiations with the unions, with the state employee unions. And the governor was very proud to say that part of that road less traveled that he spoke about was different than Wisconsin and New Jersey and the other states who had taken on state employee unions. About a month later, he announced that they had in fact reached an agreement. That an agreement in principle would save $1.6 billion, shy of the $2 billion he had hoped. That it would save the state $1.6 billion, and a lot said, gee, this doesn't seem to add up. You see, part of the savings that were anticipated was, well, something like $180 million from an employee suggestion box. $200 million over 2 years just by employees going to be healthier. And a lot of it just didn't make sense. Well, State Employees Union turned down the deal. So we find ourselves still with an incomplete budget and a $1.6 billion hole over 2 years. Special session tomorrow, the last day of the fiscal year. And what he's asked for is for us to trust him. And I don't say that with disrespect. I got to make up $1.6 billion. I'm going to do it with some layoffs, and I'd like you to give me the authority to make cuts wherever I see fit. Well, I have a lot of respect for the governor, but that can't happen. The legislature is supposed to handle matters such as that. If we're going to cut $1.6 billion, we better know damn well where we're going to cut it and who it's going to hurt. Not only do we have the highest tax increase in the history of the state of Connecticut, but the governor has announced that that extra money you're going to pay for state government, you're going to get a heck of a lot less for it. Because he's proposing we're going to lay off 5,600 plus employees, and we're going to cut some state services. So at the end of the day, you have less state services delivered by less state employees at an additional cost to you of $1.5 billion. And by the way, some of those cuts will affect municipalities who've already sent out their tax bills. Municipalities who might be forced to come back and say, I have no other choice but to put forth a supplemental tax bill and increase your taxes even more. I would ask the governor to recognize, with all due respect to him, is that we tried it his way. We took that road less traveled. Kicking and screaming for some of us, but he made us take it. The road is a dead end. It's failed. And I would respectfully request that he get up, shake it off, and start anew. That he truly sits down with the legislature, goes over our respective ideas, and comes up with a package that says, yes, we're going to cut spending, really cut spending.